The small community hall was buzzing with energy. Parents, friends, and neighbors had gathered for the annual talent show. It wasn't a huge event, but for the people in this town, it was one of the most exciting days of the year. Children of all ages were lined up backstage, practicing their acts one last time. Some were juggling, others singing, and a few were dancing to lively tunes. There was an air of nervous excitement mixed with pride, as families encouraged their children to do their best. Among all the older kids and confident performers, a tiny figure stood quietly at the corner of the room. She was just 6 years old, barely reaching her mother's waist. Her small hands clutched a little notebook filled with scribbled music notes and doodles she had drawn while practicing at home. She had been singing and dancing for as long as she could remember, but this was the first time she would perform in front of an audience bigger than her living room. Her mother crouched down beside her, adjusting the little girl's dress and smoothing her hair. "You're going to be amazing," she whispered. "Just go out there and have fun. Remember, it's all about enjoying yourself." The girl nodded, but her face was a mix of excitement and fear. She looked around at the older kids practicing their routines. Some were confidently stretching their arms, twirling across the floor, and chatting with each other. Others were stretching in silence, trying to calm their nerves. She felt small, almost invisible compared to them, and a little doubt crept into her mind. "Do I really belong here?" she thought. Her father knelt down on the other side, giving her hands a gentle squeeze. "You've practiced for this. Just remember what you love about your music. That's all that matters." He smiled, and she could feel the warmth and support radiating from him. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. The backstage area was a whirlwind of activity. Volunteers were helping kids get ready, making sure costumes were in place, microphones were working, and props were where they needed to be. The girl watched as one of the older performers accidentally tripped over a cable and started to panic. The room was chaotic, but in a strangely comforting way. It reminded her that everyone, no matter their age or skill, felt nervous before stepping on stage. She peeked through the curtain at the audience. Chairs were filling quickly, and she could see parents leaning forward, excited to see their children perform. Some were chatting softly, while others were fidgeting with their phones. The girl's stomach twisted with a mix of fear and anticipation. She had imagined this moment many times, standing on stage with lights shining down. But now that it was actually happening, it felt completely different. A volunteer came over to remind her that it was almost her turn. Her small legs felt like they were made of jelly as she walked toward the side of the stage. She tried to practice her smile, but it felt awkward. Her tiny voice barely made a sound when she whispered to herself, "I can do this, I can do this." The other performers went on stage one by one. Each received applause, cheers, and even a few laughs. The girl watched them carefully, learning from the way they carried themselves. She noticed that some of the older kids seemed too focused on impressing the audience rather than enjoying the moment. Others were relaxed, smiling, and letting the joy of performing shine through. She decided then and there that she wanted to be like the second group, joyful, confident, and true to herself. Backstage, her parents gave her a final nod of encouragement. "Go show them your heart," her mother said softly. She took another deep breath and nodded. It was her turn. The stage felt enormous to her little frame. The lights were bright, and the murmur of the audience was louder than anything she had ever heard. Her tiny hands shook slightly, but she remembered her mother's words. "Enjoy yourself." She stepped forward. Her feet felt heavy at first, as if they didn't belong to her. But with each step, she tried to focus on the music she loved so much. As she reached the center of the stage, the audience looked down at her, curious. A 6-year-old girl, standing alone. Some people smiled, thinking it would be a cute performance. Others barely paid attention, assuming she would just wave or say hello before finishing quickly. No one knew what was about to happen. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, listening to the soft notes of the music beginning to play. It was a melody she had practiced countless times in her room, humming along with her toy piano and dancing barefoot on the carpet. Now, under the stage lights, it felt different. It felt alive. She felt a shiver run down her spine, a mix of fear and excitement. Opening her eyes, she lifted her chin slightly, feeling the warmth of the spotlight on her face. The room was quiet, the audience waiting expectantly. She took a slow, deep breath and let herself sink into the music. It was like stepping into a world where only she and the melody existed. Her tiny fingers tapped, her feet moved in rhythm, and her voice, soft at first, began to fill the hall. What started as a tentative performance quickly turned into something more. The confidence she had built through years of secret practice at home started to show. Each note was clear, each movement precise. She was no longer just a 6-year-old girl on stage. She was an artist, expressing herself in a way that transcended her age. Back in the audience, people began to notice the change. Whispers started to die down as eyes widened in surprise. Parents leaned forward, holding their breath. Judges, who had seen hundreds of performances, sat up straighter. Something about this little girl was different. She wasn't performing to impress anyone. She was performing because she loved it, and that pure joy was contagious. Backstage, other performers paused in awe. They had watched her walk onto the stage shyly, expecting a cute act, but now they could see the spark of true talent. Some couldn't help but smile, realizing that age didn't define skill or passion. The girl, unaware of the impact she was making, continued with her performance. Every gesture, every note, every movement seemed to come from her heart. She was completely immersed, forgetting about the lights, the audience, and even the competition. For her, it was just her and the music, and in that first part of her story, the moments leading up to her performance, something magical had already begun. The timid 6-year-old who had doubted herself had taken the first step into a moment that would change everything. The audience might not have known it yet, but this was the beginning of an unforgettable journey. A journey where courage, passion, and a love for what she did would shine brighter than anyone could have imagined. By the time she finished that opening sequence, the room was quiet, not in judgment, but in awe. People were leaning forward, unsure if they had ever seen someone so young express themselves with such confidence and heart. And as she paused, catching her breath, she could feel the electricity in the air. Something was about to happen, something that no one in that hall would ever forget. The little girl smiled softly to herself, feeling proud. She didn't know how the audience felt yet, but she felt a sense of accomplishment. For the first time, she realized that stepping onto a stage, facing her fear, and doing what she loved could be a powerful thing. She had taken the first step toward something extraordinary. And just like that, the stage, the lights, and the audience became part of her world. The 6-year-old girl had begun a journey that would capture hearts and leave everyone around her astonished. What had started as a simple talent show act was about to turn into a story that people would talk about for years to come. The music started softly, filling the hall with gentle notes. The 6-year-old girl felt it wrap around her like a warm hug. At first, her steps were small and careful, her voice barely above a whisper. She was aware of every eye in the audience, every movement of the judges, every sound in the room. But instead of letting fear take over, she focused on the rhythm of the music and the story she wanted to tell through it. Her tiny fingers moved gracefully, tapping on the piano keys she had practiced for so long. She had imagined this moment countless times at home, playing in front of her family, or even in front of her stuffed animals. But now, with hundreds of people watching, it was different. The air was heavier, the lights brighter, and the sound of silence from the audience was almost deafening. At first, a few people in the audience whispered quietly, thinking it would be a cute, short performance. Some parents smiled politely, assuming she would wave and finish quickly. But within seconds, it became clear that this little girl was different. She wasn't just performing. She was expressing herself in a way that no one expected. Her voice, soft but steady, began to carry the melody across the hall. Each note was clear and pure, filled with emotion. She moved lightly, as if she were dancing with the music itself. There was a focus in her eyes that made it hard to believe she was only 6. She was completely absorbed in what she was doing. Unaware of the whispers that had already stopped, people started leaning forward in their seats. Teachers, parents, and neighbors all paused, mesmerized. Some of the older kids backstage stopped their own preparations to peek through the curtains. They had expected a simple, sweet performance. Instead, they saw a little girl performing with the confidence and grace of someone much older. The girl took a deep breath, allowing the next part of her song to flow naturally. Her hands moved quickly across the keys, following the music she had memorized. Her small body swayed gently to the rhythm, and her eyes sparkled with excitement and concentration. It wasn't just her skill that impressed the audience. It was the way she put her heart into every note, every movement, every gesture. One by one, people in the audience began to react. A woman in the front row covered her mouth in surprise. A man near the back leaned forward, unable to look away. Even the judges, who had seen countless talented performers, sat in stunned silence. They had expected a simple performance, but this was something entirely different. It wasn't just cute or impressive, it was unforgettable, the girl continued, feeling the music flow through her. Her nerves, which had been strong just minutes ago, had vanished. In their place was a sense of calm and joy. She no longer thought about the size of the stage or the number of people watching. All she could feel was the music and the happiness it brought her. Backstage, her parents were holding their breath. Their hearts swelled with pride, but they were also amazed. Their little girl, who had once been shy and hesitant even to sing in the living room, was commanding the attention of everyone in the hall. They exchanged a glance, their eyes shining with emotion. Knowing this was a moment they would never forget, the music changed tempo, growing slightly faster, and the girl adjusted without hesitation. Her movements became livelier, more expressive. She had practiced for hours in her room, learning to match her gestures to the music, but performing it in front of so many people was a new challenge. Yet, she handled it as if it were second nature. Each step, each note, each motion was perfectly timed. The audience began to murmur quietly, but this time it wasn't whispers of doubt or expectation, it was awe. People were realizing that they were witnessing something rare. Children her age were often shy or hesitant, but this girl had courage far beyond her years. Her presence on the stage commanded attention, not because of size or age, but because of the energy she radiated. At one point, the music softened again. The girl closed her eyes for a brief moment, letting herself feel every note. She imagined the faces of the audience smiling at her, but she didn't let that distract her. She was in her own world, a world where music and joy flowed freely. She opened her eyes, and a small, genuine smile appeared on her face. It was a smile that spoke of confidence, happiness, and pride in what she was doing. Even the judges began to lean forward, scribbling notes and exchanging glances. They had expected to see a young child perform, but instead they were seeing someone who could easily stand out in competitions far beyond this small community hall. The girl's talent was undeniable, but it wasn't just her skill, it was the heart and passion she put into her performance that left everyone captivated. As the song progressed, she added little flourishes she had improvised herself. A slight spin here, a gentle tap there, small touches that showed creativity and imagination. It was clear that she wasn't just repeating what she had practiced. She was living the music. Each moment was filled with authenticity, making the audience forget her age entirely. People around her began to whisper to each other in awe. "Can you believe she's 6?" one parent murmured. "She's incredible," another said quietly. Cameras and phones were raised, capturing the performance, but even those who weren't recording were unable to look away. The energy in the room shifted. What had started as polite curiosity had turned into admiration and amazement. The girl's parents felt tears welling up in their eyes. They had always known their daughter loved music, but seeing her perform in this way, so naturally and passionately, was beyond anything they had imagined. Their pride was mixed with awe. Their little girl, shy and small just moments ago, had transformed into a performer who could touch hearts. Meanwhile, the little girl remained focused. She wasn't thinking about applause or recognition. She was thinking about the music, the joy it brought her, and the story she wanted to tell through it. Her dedication and focus were a lesson in itself, a reminder that true talent isn't just about skill, but about love for what you do. As the music reached its climax, the audience could feel the emotion building. The hall seemed to hold its breath as she hit the final notes. Each sound was precise, deliberate, and filled with feeling. Even those who had been skeptical or distracted moments earlier were now completely captivated when the last note lingered in the air. There was a brief silence. The audience wasn't sure how to react. They had been caught so completely in the performance that they needed a moment to return to reality. Then, as if a dam had broken, the room erupted in applause. People rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, and even some wiping tears from their eyes. The little girl looked around in surprise, unsure what had happened. She had felt the joy of performing, but she hadn't expected this reaction. Backstage, other performers whispered among themselves. Some couldn't believe what they had seen. They had been confident in their own skills, but this tiny girl had stolen the show not with tricks, not with flash, but with pure talent and heart. It was a moment that would be remembered long after the show ended. The judges began taking notes, but their expressions showed more than anything written on paper could capture. They were impressed, genuinely impressed. The girl had not only performed well, she had moved people. That is what true artistry is about. Not winning trophies, not impressing a room, but touching hearts. And she had done it effortlessly. As the applause continued, the little girl felt a warm sensation in her chest. It wasn't about being noticed or praised. It was about knowing that she had shared something important, something that mattered. She had stepped onto a stage, faced her fears, and let her passion shine. And in doing so, she had captured the hearts of everyone in the hall. Her parents rushed to the stage as she finished her bow, their eyes sparkling with pride. They hugged her tightly, whispering words of encouragement and love. She felt their warmth and support, and it made the moment even more special. She realized then that while the audience had been impressed by her performance, it was the people who loved her who made the moment truly unforgettable. In that moment, the 6-year-old girl understood something important. Performing wasn't just about skill or practice, it was about courage, passion, and sharing a piece of yourself with others. And she had done exactly that. The applause, the awe, the smiles, it was all a reflection of her heart shining through. And so, her first steps onto a stage, the first moments of performing in front of a real audience, became more than just a performance. It became a memory, a beginning, a story of a young girl discovering the power of her own courage and talent. The audience had witnessed not just a performance, but a moment of magic. The little girl stepped off the stage, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Her tiny legs felt tired, but her heart was light. She had faced her fears, expressed herself, and connected with hundreds of people in a way that words could not describe. And though she didn't fully understand it yet, she had taken the first step toward something much bigger than herself, a journey that would continue to inspire, amaze, and touch lives for years to come. The moment her tiny feet touched the stage again, the atmosphere had already changed. The audience wasn't just curious anymore, they were watching with full attention. Every eye was on her, every ear tuned to the delicate notes she was about to play and sing. The 6-year-old girl could feel the warmth of the stage lights on her face and the expectant hush of hundreds of people around her. She had never experienced anything like this before. Backstage, parents and volunteers whispered among themselves, sharing astonished glances. "She's only 6. And look at her," one parent murmured. "I've never seen anyone so young perform like this." Other children, who had been nervous about their own acts, peeked through the curtains. Some of them had practiced for months, yet here was a little girl who had captured the attention of the entire hall in seconds. The girl took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of excitement and nerves. She reminded herself of what her parents had told her earlier. Just enjoy the music, let your heart guide you. That thought alone steadied her shaking hands. Slowly, she positioned herself in the center of the stage, feeling the smooth floor beneath her tiny shoes. She could hear the faint hum of the crowd, the quiet anticipation, and she let it become part of her rhythm rather than something that scared her. The music began again, this time slightly different from before. It was a more complicated piece, one she had practiced only a few times, but she had memorized every note, every movement. Her fingers moved over the keys with confidence, light but precise. Her small body swayed naturally with the rhythm, her movement synchronized perfectly with the melody. She was no longer a little girl stepping onto a stage, she was a performer, a storyteller, and the music was her voice. In the audience, people leaned forward instinctively. The energy in the room was electric. Some were holding their breaths, afraid to blink in case they missed a single moment. Others quietly whispered to their neighbors, trying to process what they were seeing. "She's incredible," one person said softly. "I can't believe she's just 6. The word spread, as if everyone needed to remind themselves of her age to comprehend the skill and emotion she was displaying. Her parents watched with their hearts pounding. Their little girl, who had once been shy and hesitant even to speak in front of family, was now commanding the attention of hundreds of strangers. They had encouraged her to follow her passion, to practice and perform, but they had never imagined a moment like this. Pride and disbelief filled them at the same time. They exchanged glances, realizing that they were witnessing a memory that would last a lifetime. The song shifted again, becoming more intense and emotional. The girl leaned into the music, letting every note come from her heart. Her voice, small but clear, carried through the hall, filling every corner with melody. She had learned early on that music wasn't just about hitting the right notes. It was about emotion, about telling a story that others could feel. And she did it flawlessly. Backstage, some of the older kids gasped. They had been confident in their own performances. But this little girl had completely redefined what they thought talent at her age could be. Some whispered to each other, "I can't believe she's just a kid. She's amazing." Even the volunteers, who had seen children perform every year, were leaning forward, captivated by every movement and sound. The girl's tiny feet moved with surprising grace across the stage. She spun, twirled, and shifted with the melody, each motion delicate yet confident. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was lost in the music. And that was what made it so magical. Her authenticity, her joy, and her passion were evident in every gesture. The audience wasn't just watching a performance, they were witnessing the heart and soul of a young artist. Every now and then, she glanced up at the audience, catching faces filled with awe. There were parents who had tears in their eyes, children who had their mouths open in surprise, and judges who were furiously jotting notes but clearly distracted by what they were seeing. The room was quiet, but in a heavy, focused silence, the kind that only comes when people are completely absorbed in something extraordinary. The girl's mother couldn't help but squeeze her hands together, feeling tears prick her eyes. She remembered the shy little girl who had once hidden behind her arms during family gatherings, afraid to speak. And now, here she was, holding a stage and an audience in the palm of her tiny hands. Her heart swelled with pride and wonder. The melody reached a soft, delicate moment, and the girl slowed her movements slightly, letting the audience hang on each note. She knew that music wasn't just about fast, impressive sequences. It was also about the quiet moments, the pauses, the emotions that lingered. And she played those moments perfectly, letting her performance breathe, letting the audience feel every emotion she intended. A soft murmur of awe spread through the crowd. People were leaning forward, eyes wide, hearts racing. Some couldn't believe that someone so young could perform with such skill and emotion. Others simply smiled, lost in the beauty of the music, appreciating the simplicity and purity of her talent. There was no distraction, no doubt, only connection. The judges exchanged glances, clearly impressed. They had seen hundreds of performances over the years, but there was something rare about this girl. Her technique was solid, her timing perfect, but it was her passion that set her apart. She wasn't just performing for a trophy or recognition. She was performing because she loved it, and that authenticity resonated with everyone in the room. The music picked up again, building to a crescendo. Her movements became livelier, more expressive, and the audience could feel the energy rising. The little girl didn't rush, didn't try to show off. She simply let the music guide her. Every step, every tap of the keys, every note of her voice flowed naturally, perfectly aligned with the emotions she wanted to convey. The audience began to clap along softly, unable to resist the rhythm and emotion. Some people whispered encouragement, while others sat in stunned silence, captivated by the young performer. There was laughter, tears, and cheers mixed together, a sign that she had touched people in more ways than one. Even the older performers backstage stopped what they were doing. Some covered their mouths in awe, unable to believe that someone so small could have such an impact. Others looked at each other and nodded, silently acknowledging that they had witnessed something truly special. The girl, completely absorbed in her performance, hardly noticed the reactions around her. She was focused on the music, on expressing herself, on telling a story that only she could tell. Her tiny voice carried through the hall with confidence and emotion, drawing people in with every note. She didn't just perform, she connected. Her parents stood near the edge of the stage, holding hands, their hearts full. They had encouraged her to follow her passion, but nothing could have prepared them for this moment. Their little girl had stepped onto a stage with courage, talent, and heart, and in doing so, had left a lasting impression on everyone present. The final section of the song approached, and the girl added small flourishes she had learned in her practice, gestures that made the performance uniquely hers. She didn't rush. She savored each note, each movement, and the audience responded, leaning forward, holding their breath, completely captivated. As the last note lingered in the air, the room was silent for a brief moment, everyone too stunned to speak. Then, slowly, applause began. First a few claps, then more, until the hall erupted in cheers, whistles, and standing ovations. The 6-year-old girl had done more than perform. She had inspired, amazed, and touched every single person in the room. Backstage, the other performers clapped for her, smiling in admiration. The volunteers whispered excitedly, exchanging looks that said, "Did you see that?" The judges, who had initially been skeptical, were now clearly impressed, jotting down notes but unable to hide their amazement. The girl took a small bow, feeling a rush of happiness and pride. She had faced her fears, performed with her heart, and shown everyone that talent and courage can shine at any age. For her, it wasn't about the applause. It was about sharing the joy and passion that music had given her. Her parents rushed onto the stage, enveloping her in hugs and tears of pride. "You were incredible," her mother whispered. "You made everyone so happy." Her father smiled, tears in his eyes, and said, "We are so proud of you. You shine today." The girl hugged them tightly, feeling the love and support that had guided her to this moment. And in that moment, she realized something important. The applause, the cheers, the astonished looks, they were not just for her talent, but for the courage and heart she had shown. She had stepped onto a stage, faced the unknown, and let herself shine. That was more than a performance. It was a story of bravery, joy, and passion. The little girl stepped off the stage, tiny but radiant, knowing that she had shared something special with the world. She had not only amazed the audience, but had also discovered something about herself. That courage, practice, and love for what you do can create magic, no matter your age. The applause didn't stop. It seemed to grow louder and louder, filling every corner of the hall. People were on their feet, clapping, cheering, and even some whistling in excitement. The 6-year-old girl stood frozen for a moment, her tiny hands pressed together, blinking in surprise. She had expected applause, yes, but not this overwhelming, this powerful. She could feel the energy of the crowd vibrating through the floor, reaching her in waves. Her parents rushed forward, their faces shining with pride. They hugged her tightly, whispering words of encouragement and love. "You did it," her mother said, her voice trembling. "You made everyone so happy." Her father nodded, tears in his eyes. "We are so proud of you. You shine today." The girl hugged them back, feeling the warmth and support that had always guided her. In that moment, she realized that her courage had not only made her proud of herself, but had also inspired those around her. The audience continued to clap. Many people still standing, some even leaning forward in astonishment. Teachers, neighbors, and parents were exchanging amazed glances. They had seen countless performances in this small hall over the years, but none had ever captured the room like this. The girl's performance was not just about skill, it was about heart, passion, and the joy she radiated. People could feel it, and it was contagious. A few parents whispered to each other, expressing disbelief. "She's only 6 years old," one said. "And yet she has the presence of someone much older." Another nodded in agreement. "I've never seen a child perform with such confidence and emotion. It's incredible." Children in the audience were staring, wide-eyed, some with mouths open in amazement. They couldn't believe that someone so young could be so talented. Backstage, the older performers who had been waiting for their turn were in awe. Some of them were smiling, others shaking their heads, clearly impressed. They had been confident in their own routines, but this little girl had completely stolen the show. One child whispered to another, "I didn't think anyone could do that." Another nodded, whispering back, "She's amazing." "I've never seen anything like it." The volunteers and organizers who had been managing the event for years were also captivated. They had prepared for a normal talent show, with children performing small acts and simple routines. But this performance had changed the atmosphere completely. The hall, which had been buzzing with polite conversation moments before, was now filled with pure admiration and awe. The judges, who had initially been skeptical about a 6-year-old competing alongside older children, were clearly impressed. They scribbled notes, whispered to each other, and exchanged glances that said more than words ever could. It was rare, they knew, to see such raw talent and emotion in someone so young. This was more than a performance, it was a display of natural ability, courage, and heart. Meanwhile, the little girl, now standing in the center of the stage with her parents by her side, was beginning to understand the effect she had on the audience. She could see smiles, tears, and expressions of astonishment. She could feel the warmth of their admiration, and it made her heart swell. For the first time, she realized that her love for music, her practice, and her courage to step on stage had a real impact on others. People began to talk excitedly among themselves. Conversations spread like wildfire. "Did you see how she played those notes? So precise yet full of emotion," one adult said. Another added, "It's not just her music, it's her presence. She's incredible." Phones were raised, cameras clicked, and some people even started recording videos. Social media posts were already beginning to form, people wanting to share the astonishing performance with friends and family. The little girls' parents could hardly believe it. They had known their daughter was talented, but they had never imagined this. Their shy, quiet child, who sometimes hesitated to speak in public, had just captivated an entire room. It was a moment they would never forget, a memory that would live in their hearts forever. They realized that this performance was not just a milestone in their daughter's life, but in the lives of everyone who witnessed it. The audience's excitement continued to build. Some people began cheering even louder, clapping enthusiastically, and some even whistling. Children, who had been watching silently, were now jumping up and down, clapping along, caught up in the energy of the moment. The hall seemed alive, filled with joy, admiration, and the kind of excitement that only comes when someone truly extraordinary is performing. The girl, seeing all the reactions, felt a mix of pride, happiness, and surprise. She had only intended to share her music, to perform what she loved. She hadn't expected such a powerful response, yet it was one she would never forget. For the first time, she understood the magic of connecting with others through her art. It was more than performing, it was touching hearts. Her parents hugged her again, whispering words of love. "You've shown everyone your heart," her mother said. "You've inspired them." Her father nodded. "And you've inspired us too. We always knew you had something special, but today was extraordinary." The girl smiled, feeling the warmth of their words. It was a moment of validation, of understanding that her passion mattered. The applause continued, and the energy in the hall didn't fade. People were discussing her performance with excitement, recalling moments that had amazed them, the way her fingers moved across the piano keys, the expressions on her face, the way she let the music guide her. Some were whispering about how natural and confident she seemed, despite her young age. Others were simply sitting in awe, absorbing the memory of something they knew they would remember forever. Backstage, the older children were inspired. Some quietly said to themselves, I want to perform like that someday." Others nodded, realizing that age or size didn't limit what someone could achieve. The little girl's courage and talent had shown them that passion and practice could make a difference. No matter how young or small you were, the judges were finishing their notes. But their expressions told the real story. They were amazed, impressed, and inspired. They had seen many talented performers before, but the combination of skill, confidence, and heart in someone so young was rare. They knew that this little girl had the potential to go far if she continued to nurture her talent and passion. As the applause finally began to fade, the girl took a small bow with her parents at her side. She felt proud, but also a little overwhelmed by the attention. She had stepped onto the stage to share her love of music, and now she realized that she had also shared a piece of herself with the world. The feeling was powerful, and it made her even more determined to continue doing what she loved. People began approaching her and her parents, offering congratulations and praise. Strangers wanted to know more about her, where she had learned to play so well, and how she had managed to perform with such confidence. Her parents answered humbly, explaining that she had practiced for hours, loved music, and had always been passionate. But everyone could see that there was something more, something natural, something extraordinary that couldn't be taught. The moment wasn't just about applause or recognition, it was about inspiration. People left the hall that day talking about her performance, sharing the story with friends and family, and remembering the feeling of witnessing a little girl step onto a stage and capture the hearts of everyone around her. Her courage and talent had become a story, one that would continue to spread beyond the walls of that small community hall. Her parents walked her to the car later, still holding her hands. "You've done something amazing today," her mother said. "You've shown everyone that age doesn't matter when you have heart and courage." Her father nodded. "And you've inspired all of us. Never forget this feeling." The girl smiled softly, realizing that this was just the beginning. She had discovered something important, that her love for music could touch the world in ways she hadn't imagined. By the time they arrived home, news of her performance had already begun to spread. Videos taken by the audience were being shared. People were talking about the incredible little girl who had amazed everyone, and friends and family called to congratulate her. It was a whirlwind, but the girl remained calm, feeling proud of what she had accomplished. She had faced her fears, expressed herself, and made an impact, all at the age of 6. And in that moment, her parents knew that this was more than just a talent show. It was the beginning of a journey, one filled with opportunities, challenges, and incredible moments. The little girl had taken a step that would change her life forever. She had shown the world that courage, practice, and passion could shine brightly. No matter your age, that night as she lay in bed, she thought about the audience, the applause, and the feeling of performing with her whole heart. She felt happy, proud, and inspired. She knew that this was only the start of her journey, that there were more stages, more performances, and more chances to share her gift. And most importantly, she knew that she could do anything as long as she believed in herself and let her heart guide her. After the incredible performance at the community hall, the little girl's life began to change in ways she could never have imagined. The applause, the cheers, and the awe of the audience had left a lasting mark, not just on her, but on everyone who witnessed it. People continued to talk about her, sharing videos and telling friends and family about the extraordinary 6-year-old who had captured the hearts of everyone in the room. Her talent, courage, and passion were spreading far beyond the small hall where it all began. The very next day, her parents were greeted with messages and calls from friends, neighbors, and even strangers congratulating them on their daughter's performance. Some people had recorded videos of the event, and soon those videos were circulating online. Within hours, they had reached faraway places. Comments poured in from people who had never met the girl, but were moved by her courage and skill. Many wrote about how inspiring it was to see someone so young perform with such confidence and heart. Despite all the attention, the little girl remained humble. She didn't fully understand why so many people were praising her. To her, it had just been a moment of doing what she loved, sharing music she had practiced and adored for years. She told her parents, "I was just playing the music. I didn't know it would make people so happy." But her parents knew that it was more than that. It wasn't just her performance, it was her courage to step into the unknown, her ability to focus, and her willingness to share herself that had touched people so deeply. In the days that followed, invitations started coming in. Local events wanted her to perform, community centers asked for her presence, and even schools called to have her share her music with students. Her parents, careful to protect her childhood, wanted to make sure these opportunities didn't overwhelm her, but they also recognized the importance of encouraging her talent. They balanced her time with school, practice, and small performances, ensuring she enjoyed every moment without feeling pressured. Every performance, no matter how small, was met with excitement. The little girl began to notice how people's faces would light up when she played. She saw the joy in children who were inspired to try music themselves, the tears in parents who remembered their own dreams, and the smiles of strangers who felt a moment of happiness because of her talent. Each performance became more than just a show, it became a way to connect with people, to spread emotion and inspiration. At home, her parents encouraged her to continue practicing, but always with joy, never with pressure. They reminded her that talent was a gift, and courage was her choice. Some evenings she would sit by the piano after school, playing softly, improvising, and experimenting with melodies. She found that music was not just about performing for others, but also about expressing herself, exploring her feelings, and finding peace in her own world. Her school noticed the change as well. Teachers commented on her confidence and focus. Other students began approaching her, curious about her music, asking questions about her practice, and sometimes trying to learn a few notes themselves. She became a source of inspiration, showing them that age didn't limit what you could achieve if you followed your passion. She never boasted, but she shared her love for music with patience and kindness, making everyone feel included. As more opportunities came, local newspapers and websites began to feature stories about her. They highlighted the 6-year-old girl who had captured the hearts of a community and shared her talent with the world. Interviews were arranged, but her parents always ensured that she stayed grounded, reminding her that her happiness and love for music were more important than fame. She learned to speak about her passion with humility, focusing on what music meant to her rather than the attention it brought. Despite all the attention, the little girl never let it change who she was. She continued to play with the same joy and authenticity that had made her performance so special in the first place. She laughed and played with her friends, went to school, and enjoyed her childhood. Music remained her first love, not the applause or recognition. Her parents were careful to nurture her talent without rushing her, understanding that balance was key to her happiness and growth. People who had seen her perform often spoke about the effect she had on them. Many admitted that they had been moved to tears, reminded of their own dreams, or inspired to try something new. Some parents shared that their children had started taking music lessons after seeing her, hoping to follow her example. Teachers and organizers described her as a young spark of inspiration, a reminder of how talent and courage, no matter how small, could create something extraordinary. The girl's performances continued to evolve. She experimented with new styles, added her own improvisations, and even composed simple original pieces. Her confidence grew, but she never lost the humility that had made her performance so endearing. She learned that sharing her talent was not about impressing others, but about spreading joy, connecting hearts, and inspiring people to pursue their own passions. One day, after a local festival performance, an elderly woman approached her parents. "Your daughter reminds me of something beautiful," she said. "She's small, but her music is huge. She brings hope and joy to everyone who listens." Her parents nodded, grateful for the acknowledgement, but they also knew that the true magic was in the girl herself, in her courage, heart, and love for what she did. Over time, her story began to reach beyond her town. Videos of her performances were shared widely online, and people from other places started recognizing her talent. Invitations for small concerts, charity events, and school programs poured in. Yet her parents always reminded her to take it one step at a time, to enjoy the moment and to keep the focus on her love for music. They wanted her journey to be about growth, happiness, and meaningful experiences, not pressure or competition. With each new performance, the little girl learned more about herself. She discovered the joy of bringing happiness to others, the thrill of expressing herself fully, and the satisfaction of hard work paying off. She realized that talent alone was not enough. It was courage, practice, and the willingness to share herself that made her extraordinary. These lessons stayed with her, shaping not just her music but her character and the way she approached life. The community, inspired by her, started organizing more opportunities for children to showcase their talents. They realized that encouragement, support, and a chance to shine could reveal hidden abilities in anyone, no matter their age. The little girl became a symbol of possibility, showing that even the youngest members of society could make a lasting impact through passion, courage, and dedication. Her parents watched with quiet pride as their daughter grew. They saw a young girl who was not only talented but also kind, humble, and aware of the gift she had. They encouraged her to continue, always reminding her to balance practice and play, performance and fun. They nurtured her creativity and courage, ensuring she never lost the love and joy that had made her first performance so magical. As the years went by, the girl continued to perform, each time touching hearts in her own special way. She never let fame or recognition overshadow her passion for music. Instead, she focused on connecting with people, inspiring others, and enjoying the process of expressing herself. The little girl who had once stepped timidly onto a stage had grown into a performer who could move hearts. All while remaining grounded and true to herself, her story became more than just about music. It became a story of courage, passion, and inspiration. She showed everyone that age does not define ability and that love for what you do can shine brighter than any spotlight. People remembered her first performance, the awe of the audience, and the feeling of witnessing something magical. And they carried that memory with them, inspired to follow their own dreams. No matter how impossible they seemed, the little girl had discovered something even more important than applause or recognition: the power of sharing yourself and your passions with others. Every note she played, every performance she gave, reminded people that courage, love, and dedication could create magic in the simplest of ways. She had started a journey at the age of 6, and it was a journey that would continue to inspire, move, and touch lives for years to come. And so, the story ends not with a final note or a last applause, but with the promise of a bright future. A 6-year-old girl had stepped onto a stage, shared her heart, and left an impact that went far beyond what anyone could have imagined. She had inspired her community, touched strangers' hearts, and most importantly, discovered the joy and power of following her passion. That tiny step onto a stage had become the beginning of a lifetime filled with music, courage, and endless possibilities.